It was just 7 words, but they hit harder than anything I faced during my time in the service. That's exactly how I met him. Dancing. I froze in the hallway of our apartment in Miami. I still had my noise-canceling headphones on, the heavy kind I used overseas, but the battery had died without warning. One second I was alone in silence, the next, her voice cut straight through me. She was in the living room, sitting on the beige sofa, phone raised for a video call with her best friend. She laughed. Not the casual laugh she used with family, not the polite one. This was the giggly, conspiratorial laugh she only used when she was sharing something she wasn't supposed to. And then she said it again, clearer this time. That's how I met him, dancing. My stomach dropped. She wasn't talking about me. We didn't meet dancing. We met 11 years ago in a library. Awkward, quiet, almost boring. That memory was burned into my brain. There was no confusion, no overlap, no interpretation. I stood there, completely still, as the realization settled in. I had been gone most of the summer. Military training, limited communication, weeks without a phone. While I was crawling through dirt, sleeping in barracks, counting days until I could come home, she had been out dancing, meeting someone I had never heard of. She tossed her hair back and took a sip of wine. Her friend said something on the screen, and my girlfriend laughed again. Then she looked up. Her face drained of color instantly. She saw me standing there. She panicked. She slapped a finger to her lips, aggressively shushing her friend, waving her hand at the screen like she was cutting a live wire. She mouthed, "Stop talking," and ended the call without warning. No goodbye, no explanation. Just fear. My name is Mark. I'm 29 years old. I'm a staff sergeant in the United States Army. I'm trained to stay calm under pressure, trained to assess threats, trained to control my reactions. But standing there, staring at the woman I had loved for over a decade, the woman I planned to propose to, I felt completely powerless. I took the headphones off my neck and dropped them onto the entry table. The sound echoed in the apartment. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. Her. I turned around and walked out. I needed air. Outside, the Miami night wrapped around me. Heat, neon, humidity. But I barely noticed it. I lit a cigarette with shaking hands and paced the sidewalk. That's how he met me, dancing. Who was he? When did this happen? And why did she sound excited? I replayed the last few months in my head. Training had been brutal, limited contact, physical exhaustion. I got through it by thinking about her, coming home to her, trusting that what we had was solid. And now this. I finished the cigarette and went back upstairs. I couldn't let it slide. Not anymore. She was sitting exactly where I left her, wine glass empty now, staring at the floor. The moment I stepped inside, I could see it, the defensive wall going up. I asked her, calmly, who she was talking about. Who did you meet dancing? She hesitated. That pause told me everything. First, she said it was a mutual friend. I stopped her immediately. That made no sense. She'd known him for years. They didn't meet dancing. She flinched. Then she pivoted. She said it was her ex. That explanation was worse. We'd been together 11 years. We'd talked about our pasts 100 times. Nothing was secret. If it really was an old story, she wouldn't have panicked. She wouldn't have shushed her friend. She wouldn't have ended the call like she'd been caught committing a crime. I told her I didn't believe her. That's when the tears started. She accused me of being paranoid, said the military messed with my head, said I was overreacting, said I was invading her privacy. She flipped the script. Fast. Gaslighting. Clean. Efficient. And the worst part? This wasn't new. As she cried on the couch, memories I had buried for years started clawing their way back. 10 years ago, she went on a trip without me, came back distant. Eventually admitted a guy kissed her at a club. At first, it was just a peck. Later, it was mutual. The truth came out in pieces. I forgave her, told myself we were young. I taught her she could trickle-truth me. Then there was the night that still keeps me awake. We were broke. 1 car, no money.
I worked nights, she wanted weed. I chose gas so I could get to work. She screamed at me for it. At 3 in the morning, she called me hysterical, said a guy was in the apartment, said she was scared. I raced home. She admitted she invited the dealer over after I left, said he crossed a line, said it was assault. I wanted to call the police immediately. She hesitated, didn't want to, but eventually charges were filed. No witnesses, no proof, just her word. I've lived with the guilt ever since, wondering if I failed her, or if I was manipulated into ruining a man's life to cover her betrayal. Years later, I caught her messaging another guy in private mode. Same pattern, denial, tears, sex to distract me, promises. I stayed. Standing there now, listening to her tell me I was crazy for questioning what I clearly heard, something inside me finally snapped into focus. This wasn't paranoia, this was a pattern. 2 days passed in silence. She played the perfect girlfriend, cooking, cleaning, overcompensating. Then my parents visited. My mom pulled me aside on the balcony and asked what was wrong. I told her everything. She didn't look surprised. She told me that a few days after I left for training, she'd stop by our place. My girlfriend was in the shower. Her phone was unlocked on the counter. My mom admitted she shouldn't have looked, but she did. There was a nude photo, explicit, taken 3 days after I left. I tried to rationalize it, told myself it could have been for me. My mom looked me dead in the eyes and said it wasn't possible. I was in blackout training, no phone, no contact. That photo wasn't for me. I looked back into the apartment. My girlfriend was laughing, pouring wine, completely at ease. A stranger. I thanked my mom and told her to act normal. That night, my girlfriend drank heavily, passed out early, left her phone charging in the kitchen. At 11:42 p.m., I picked it up. I knew the passcode. She never thought she'd need to change it. My finger hovered over the photo gallery. Once I opened it, there was no going back. I tapped the screen.
The blue light of the smartphone screen was the only thing illuminating the kitchen. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a frantic rhythm that felt dangerously loud in the silent apartment. I was sweating despite the air conditioning, a cold, clammy sweat that pricked at my hairline. I stared at the photo gallery, the grid of images blurring slightly as my eyes tried to focus through the rage. I scrolled back, past the photos of her dinner from last night, past the blurry shots of her and her friend making faces, past the pictures of our dog. I needed to get to July. I needed to see what my mother had seen. I found it. It was nestled between a screenshot of a cocktail recipe and a meme about needing coffee. July 14th. I tapped on it, and the image filled the screen. It was exactly as my mother had described. Explicit, intentional. She was posing in front of the mirror in our bathroom, the one with the cracked tile in the corner that I had promised to fix before I deployed. Her hair was done up, her makeup was fresh, and she was looking at the camera with a look I knew well. A look of invitation, a look of hunger. I checked the timestamp, 11:43 p.m. On July 14th at 11:43 p.m., I was lying in a sleeping bag in a mosquito-infested swamp in Georgia, completely exhausted after a 20-hour rucking exercise. I had not spoken to her in days. I had been thinking about her, wondering if she was missing me, wondering if she was safe. And at that exact moment, she was standing in our bathroom, preening for someone else. I felt a physical blow to my gut, a wave of nausea so strong I had to grip the granite countertop to keep from falling over. The betrayal was not just emotional, it was visceral. It felt like she had reached into my chest and crushed my lungs. But I could not stop now. The photo was just the smoking gun. I needed to find the target. I minimized the gallery and opened her messages. My thumb hovered over the green icon. I hesitated for a fraction of a second, the ghost of my old self, the trusting boyfriend whispering that this was an invasion of privacy. But that voice was weak now, drowned out by the roar of the evidence. I tapped the icon. The most recent thread was with her friend, the one she had been video calling earlier. I ignored that. I scrolled down, looking for a name I did not recognize, a male name, or maybe a fake name. And then I saw it. Danny. There was no Danny in our friend group. There was no Danny at her old job. The thread had a blue dot next to it, indicating unread messages. But the timestamp on the last message sent was from just a few hours ago, right before she got on the call with her friend. I opened the thread. The first thing I saw was a message from her, sent at 7:30 p.m. I miss your hands. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, forcing myself to read. His reply came 2 minutes later. I bet you do. Just wait until I see you again. That night at the club was just the appetizer. She replied with a winking emoji. I was just telling Sarah about how we met. She thinks it's so romantic that you just walked up to me on the dance floor. There it was, the confirmation. The sentence I had overheard was not about me. It was not about an ex. It was about Danny. It was about a stranger she met while I was away serving my country. I scrolled up. The messages went back weeks. It was a catalog of betrayal, flirty banter, inside jokes, plans to meet up. And then I found the photo. She had sent it to him on July 14th. His response was disgusting, graphic, and enthusiastic. She had liked the message. I felt a cold rage settle over me. It was different from the panic I felt earlier. This was clarity. This was the soldier taking over. The mission had changed. The objective was no longer to find out if she was cheating. The objective was to neutralize the threat and extract myself from the hostile environment. I needed to confront her, now. I walked into the bedroom. The room smelled of her perfume and the stale scent of wine. She was sprawled across the bed, her arm hanging off the side, her mouth slightly open. She looked peaceful. She looked innocent. It made me sick. I turned on the overhead light. The sudden brightness was blinding. She groaned and threw her arm over her eyes, shifting under the duvet. "Turn it off," she mumbled, her voice thick with sleep and alcohol. "Wake up." My voice was low, but it cut through the air like a knife.
She shifted again, peeling one eye open. When she saw me standing at the foot of the bed, fully dressed, holding her phone, she froze. The sleep vanished from her face, instantly replaced by a dawn of horror. She sat up, scrambling to pull the sheet up to her chest, as if she was naked. "Mark?" she stammered. "What are you doing? Why do you have my phone?" "Who is Danny?" I asked. I did not yell. I did not scream. I just asked the question. She blinked rapidly, her brain trying to catch up with the situation. "Danny? I don't know a Danny. What are you talking about?" "Don't lie to me," I said, stepping closer. "I read the messages. I saw the photo, the one you sent on July 14th, the one you took in our bathroom while I was eating MREs in the mud." Her face went pale. She tried to reach for the phone, but I pulled it back. "It's not what it looks like," she shrieked, the volume of her voice rising to a panic. "Give me my phone! You have no right!" "I have every right," I said. "You are living in my apartment. You are spending my money, and you are sexting some guy you met at a club. Tell me the truth. Who is he?" She started to cry. It was a performance I had seen before. The tears came fast and heavy, accompanied by loud sobbing. "He's nobody. He's just a guy I met. It didn't mean anything. I was lonely, Mark. You were gone. You're always gone." "I was gone for work," I snapped. "I was gone to build a future for us, and you were lonely, so you decided to cheat?" "I didn't cheat," she yelled. "I never slept with him. I swear, Mark. We just talked. Maybe we kissed once, but that's it. I swear on my life." I stared at her. "Just kissed?" "Yes," she insisted, wiping her eyes. "Just a kiss and some messages. I was drunk. It was a mistake. I cut it off. That's why I was telling Sarah about it. I was telling her it was over." "You're lying," I said. "I read the texts. You sent him a message at 7:30 tonight saying you missed his hands. Does that sound like it's over?" She froze. She had forgotten about that text. She was trapped. "It was just flirting," she screamed.
desperate now. "I need validation, Mark. I have needs. You leave me here alone for months and expect me to just sit here like a nun? I have a drinking problem, okay? I messed up, but I didn't fuck him."
"I met you dancing," I said, my voice trembling with suppressed anger. "You told your friend you met him dancing, just like you told me that guy in Cuba 10 years ago just kissed you until I found out it was mutual. Just like you told me that guy who sold weed attacked you, but there was no proof. It's always the same story with you, isn't it? You're always the victim. You're always the lonely girl who just made a mistake." She flinched when I brought up the weed dealer. That was a deep wound, a scar on our relationship that had never fully healed.
"Don't bring that up," she hissed. "That was an assault. How dare you?" "Was it?" I asked. The question hung in the air, heavy and toxic. Because looking at you now, looking at how easily you lie to my face about Danny, I'm starting to wonder. Did you invite that guy down for weed? Did you flirt with him? Did you regret it when I came home and spun a story to cover your ass so I wouldn't dump you? "You're a monster," she spat at me. "I can't believe you would say that." "I can't believe I'm standing here looking at a stranger," I countered. "You admitted to kissing this Danny guy. You admitted to messaging him. You sent him nudes. That is cheating. I don't care if you didn't have intercourse. You betrayed me." "It's not cheating if there's no sex," she yelled, clinging to her twisted logic. "I've never had sex with anyone else. I've been loyal to you for 11 years. "Loyal," I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You call this loyal? Messaging random dudes on Facebook, sending nudes, meeting guys at clubs?" "I have a problem," she sobbed, collapsing back onto the pillows. "I drink too much. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. Help me, Mark. Don't leave me. I love you." I looked at her sobbing on the bed. A part of me, the part that had loved her since we were teenagers, wanted to comfort her, wanted to believe that it was just the alcohol, that she was sick and needed help. But the soldier in me saw the tactical situation clearly. She was manipulating me. She was using her problem as a shield to deflect accountability. "I can't help you. Not this time." I turned to walk out of the room, but she scrambled off the bed and grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "No, you can't leave. We have a lease. We have a life. You can't throw away 11 years over some texts." I shook her off. "Watch me." I went to the closet and grabbed my duffel bag, the one I used for deployments. I started throwing clothes into it indiscriminately, t-shirts, socks, uniforms. She stood in the doorway, watching me, crying hysterically, begging me to stop. "Mark, please, I'll block him. I'll delete the number. I'll go to therapy. I'll stop drinking. Just please don't go." I ignored her. I zipped up the bag. I had my wallet, my keys, and her phone. I wasn't giving that back until I had backed up the evidence. "I'm staying at a hotel tonight. Do not contact me. Do not call my parents. If you come near the base, I will have you escorted off by MPs. "You're overreacting," she screamed, chasing me down the hall. "It's just a text. You're crazy. You're paranoid." I stopped at the front door. I turned to look at her one last time. She looked pathetic, disheveled, and desperate, but there was something else in her eyes, a flicker of calculation. She was already planning her next move, already figuring out how to spin this to her friends, how to make herself the victim. "I'm not paranoid," I said. "I'm awake." I walked out the door and slammed it shut. I sat in my truck in the parking lot, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I needed to get out of there, but I needed to know the full extent of the damage first. I looked at her phone again. I had the texts with Danny, but something nagged at me. Her claim that she never had sex with anyone else. She was too adamant about it, too specific. I opened the phone again. I went to the apps. I saw Snapchat. I hate Snapchat. It is the cheater's paradise. I opened it. It was logged in.
There were dozens of conversations. Most were just streaks or random snaps, but there was one name pinned to the top. Yoga instructor. She doesn't do yoga. I clicked on the profile. It wasn't a yoga instructor. It was a guy named Stefan.
I checked the saved media in the chat, my breath caught in my throat. There were videos, not just nudes, videos. I clicked on the most recent one, dated 3 weeks ago. It was dark, but the audio was clear. I heard her voice. I heard her laughing, and then I heard the unmistakable sound of intimacy. The camera moved, and I saw her face. She was in a car I didn't recognize, and she wasn't alone. The video cut out after 10 seconds, but it was enough. She had lied about everything. Never had sex, just kissed, just touched. It was all a lie. She had been living a double life. And then I saw the next video. It was older, dated 2 years ago. I played it. It was in our old apartment, the one with the weed dealer upstairs. My blood ran cold. The guy in the video wasn't Stefan. It was the guy she claimed had assaulted her, the guy she had sent to jail, or at least charged. They were laughing, they were drinking, and she was sitting on his lap, kissing him passionately. "You're so bad," she giggled in the video. "Mark is going to be home soon." "Let him come," the guy laughed. "I'm not scared of him." I dropped the phone on the passenger seat. I felt like I had been shot. The assault was a lie, a complete fabrication. She had cheated on me, invited the guy down, hooked up with him, and then when I came home early or threatened to come home, she panicked and cried wolf. She had destroyed a man's life. She had manipulated the legal system, and she had gaslit me for years into thinking I failed to protect her. I wasn't just dealing with a cheater. I was dealing with a sociopath. I put the truck in gear and peeled out of the parking lot, my tires screeching against the pavement. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing. I was done being the victim. I was done being the fool. I had the evidence. I had the phone. And tomorrow, I was going to burn her world to the ground.
I sat in my truck for what felt like hours, but the digital clock on the dashboard told me it had only been 20 minutes. The engine was idling, the low rumble vibrating through the seat, but I couldn't feel it. I was numb. My entire body had gone cold, a deep, bone-chilling freeze that had nothing to do with the air conditioning and everything to do with the video playing on loop in my mind. The video of her. The video of the man she had accused of assaulting her. The video that proved, without a shadow of a doubt, that she was not a victim. She was a predator. I looked down at her phone lying on the passenger seat. It wasn't just a device anymore. It was a bomb. It contained the evidence that could destroy her life, just as she had nearly destroyed mine, and just as she had successfully destroyed that guy's life years ago. I remembered the guilt I'd carried for that incident. I remembered how I had beaten myself up thinking I had failed to protect her because I didn't buy her weed that night. I had almost lost my job leaving work early to rescue her. I had pushed for police involvement. I had been her champion. And the whole time, she had been laughing at me. She had been sitting on that guy's lap, mocking me. And then, when the reality of her actions set in, she flipped the script and turned a consensual hookup into a crime scene to save her own skin. I knew I couldn't go to a hotel. I needed a secure location. I needed somewhere I could think, somewhere I could preserve this evidence before she found a way to wipe it remotely or report the phone stolen. I put the truck in gear and drove north, heading toward my parents' house. It was a long drive at this hour, but I needed the distance. I needed to put miles between me and the toxicity of that apartment in Miami. As I drove, my mind raced through the last 11 years. Every argument, every tearful confession, every crazy ex story she had ever told me. I realized now that I didn't know her at all. The woman I loved was a fabrication, a character she played to keep a roof over her head and a steady supply of validation. She didn't work, she drank all day, and she cheated with a callousness that was terrifying. The messages to Danny about his hands, the nude photos sent while I was in the field, the videos with Stefan. It was a lifestyle. I wasn't a boyfriend, I was a host. I arrived at my parents' house just as the sun was starting to bleed into the horizon, painting the sky in shades of bruised purple and orange. I used my key to let myself in, trying to be quiet, but my mom was already up. She was sitting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, staring out the window. She turned when I walked in, and the look on my face told her everything she needed to know. "You found something," she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded, unable to speak. I walked over to the table and placed the phone down.
I found everything, Mom. You were right. The noob photo was just the tip of the iceberg. My dad walked in a moment later, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He took one look at me, still in yesterday's clothes, eyes bloodshot, shaking, and immediately went to the pot to pour me a mug of black coffee. We sat at the table, and I told them. I didn't show them the videos. I couldn't bring myself to let my parents see that filth, but I described them. I told them about Danny. I told them about the timeline. And then I told them about the weed dealer. My dad, a retired cop, went stone silent. He leaned forward, his elbows on the table, his face hardening. Are you saying she falsified a police report? That she accused a man of sexual assault to cover an affair? I have the video, Dad, I said, my voice cracking. It's dated 2 years ago. It's in our old apartment. She's laughing with him. She's active. It's undeniable. My dad let out a low whistle. That's a felony, Mark. That's perjury. That's filing a false report. That guy, he got a record because of this. He got charged. I remembered the details. There was no proof, so it didn't stick fully, but his name was dragged through the mud. He probably lost his job, his reputation, and I helped her do it. I pushed her to go to the police. You didn't know, my mom said fiercely, grabbing my hand. You were a kid. You were manipulated by a professional liar. Do not take that guilt on yourself. I have to fix it. I can't undo the last 10 years, but I can fix this. The next few hours were a blur of tactical operations. My dad helped me back up the entire contents of her phone to an external hard drive. We saved the texts, the call logs, the metadata of the photos, and most importantly, the videos. We made 3 copies. One for me, one for my dad's safe, and one on a cloud drive she couldn't access.
Her phone had been buzzing incessantly since I left. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of texts. They ranged from begging, "Baby, please come back, I can explain," to gaslighting, "You're having a mental break, you need help," to threats, "I'm calling the police if you don't bring my phone back." I didn't answer. I didn't engage. Around noon, I made a decision. I did a search for the guy from the old apartment. His name was Jason. It wasn't hard to find him. He still lived in the same town, working at a different auto shop now. I found his Facebook profile. He looked older, tired. There was a post from a year ago about being denied a housing application due to a background check. My stomach twisted. I drafted a message. I kept it brief. I told him who I was. I told him I had found evidence that proved his innocence regarding the incident 2 years ago. I told him I was willing to provide it to him or his lawyer. I hit send. Then it was time to end it. I wasn't going to ghost her. I wasn't going to disappear. I needed to clear my name from the lease, get my belongings, and look her in the eye one last time. I wanted her to know that I knew. I wanted to see the mask fall completely. I drove back to Miami with my dad following me in his truck. We arrived at the apartment complex in the late afternoon. I could see her silhouette in the window as we pulled up. She was pacing. When I unlocked the door, the smell of stale wine hit me instantly. The apartment was a wreck. She had clearly been throwing things in a rage. She was standing in the middle of the living room, wearing the same clothes as the night before, her hair a mess, her eyes wild. When she saw me, she lunged. "Where have you been? You stole my phone. That's theft. I called the cops." "No, you didn't," I said calmly, stepping into the room. My dad stood in the doorway, a silent sentinel. She stopped when she saw him, her aggression faltering slightly. "Mark, please." She switched tactics instantly, her voice dropping to a whimper. 11 years, Mark. You can't just throw it away." "I'm not here to talk. I'm here to pack." I walked past her into the bedroom. I started grabbing the rest of my things, my uniforms, my boots, my documents. She followed me, grabbing at my arms, trying to physically stop me. "Stop it! Listen to me! It was just flirting! It didn't mean anything!" I spun around, and for the first time, I let the anger show. Just flirting, like Jason was just an attack? She froze. The blood drained from her face so fast she looked like a corpse. "What?" "I saw the video," I said, watching her crumble.
The one on your Snapchat? The one from 2 years ago? You and Jason, laughing, kissing? Let him come, I'm not scared of him. Remember that? She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She backed away until she hit the dresser. You ruined that man's life, I said, stepping closer. You lied to the police. You lied to me. You used me as a weapon against an innocent guy just because you were scared of getting caught cheating. I was drunk, she stammered, her eyes darting around the room as if looking for an exit. I have a problem. I'm sick. I need help. You're supposed to support me, in sickness and in health, Mark. We aren't married, I said cold, and thank God for that. I finished packing in silence. She sat on the floor, rocking back and forth, mumbling to herself. She looked pathetic. The arrogance was gone. The manipulation had failed. She was just a sad, broken woman with a drinking problem and no moral compass.
When I carried the last box to the door, I stopped. I pulled her phone out of my pocket and placed it on the kitchen counter. Here, I said. I backed up everything, by the way, so don't bother deleting it. She looked up, terror in her eyes. What are you going to do? I already did it, I said. I contacted Jason. I told him I have proof. She screamed. It was a high, piercing shriek of pure panic. You can't! He'll sue me! I'll go to jail! Mark, please, I'm your girlfriend! Not anymore, I said. I walked out the door and didn't look back. I heard her screaming my name as I walked down the hallway, but it sounded distant, like it was coming from another dimension. I walked out into the humid Miami air, took a deep breath, and felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. The aftermath was messy, as these things always are. I moved back in with my parents temporarily while I looked for a new place. I separated our finances, which was a nightmare, but necessary. I found out she had racked up thousands of dollars in credit card debt that I didn't know about, buying clothes and alcohol. Jason responded to my message a day later. He was skeptical at first, thinking it was a trap, but when I met him, neutral ground, a coffee shop, and showed him the video, the guy broke down in tears, a grown man sobbing in a Starbucks. He told me he had lost his job at the time, his girlfriend had left him, his family had looked at him differently. That accusation had haunted him every day for 2 years. I gave him the hard drive. I gave him a signed affidavit stating that I had found the evidence and that she had admitted to me it was a lie. I told him I would testify if he needed me to. He shook my hand, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I had actually protected someone. It wasn't the heroic military service I had imagined, but it was justice. Last I heard, Jason was suing her for defamation and emotional distress. The police were reopening the case based on the new evidence. She was facing potential charges for filing a false police report. As for her, she spiraled. Without me to pay the rent, she was evicted within 2 months. Mutual friends told me she tried to spin the story, telling people I was abusive, that I was controlling, that I hacked her phone. But the truth didn't stick. The truth has a way of coming out, especially when there are receipts. She moved back with her parents, apparently hitting rock bottom with the alcohol. I am still healing. Trust is a hard thing to rebuild after 11 years of lies. I question things I shouldn't. I look for hidden meanings in simple sentences. When a girl says she met someone dancing, I flinch. But I'm in therapy. I'm focusing on my career. I'm reconnecting with friends I lost touch with because of her. I realized that the him she met dancing wasn't just a guy. He was the catalyst. That one slip-up, that one moment of arrogant carelessness saved my life. It woke me up. It forced me to look at the red flags I had been ignoring for a decade. I am 29 years old. I am a staff sergeant, and for the first time in my adult life, I am free.